This morning, on the way here, Kevin and I were listening to Hamilton, the soundtrack to the Broadway musical, which I just love because it's so powerful and brilliant. And we were listening to the song, "The World Turned Upside Down," which of course is the end of the Revolutionary War, when we win. And I love that song, and I love that phrase, "the world was upside down." There's a story of a little girl whose mom said, "Okay, honey, come on, it's time for bed." And she said, "No, just give me a few minutes, Mom. I have some thinking to do." And the mom said, "Okay, come on up when you're ready." And after a little time, the little girl came up to bed, and the mom said, "So, did you get all your thinking in?" And she said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, what did you think about?" And she said, "Well, I thought about gravity, and I thought about how God is in the center of the world. He is the gravity. She is the gravity when the world is upside down to keep people right side up." Like, wow, how clever is that? And the world does feel upside down a lot, doesn't it? It feels like it's upside down, like what the heck is going on? And then other times we can feel like we're on top of the world. Just on top of the world. Everything's going our way. Eric Butterworth, Unity minister from a few decades ago, talks about the world that we sit on top of. When we're sitting on top of the world, it's the world of our own thinking, of our own ideas, of our own aspirations. We have the freedom to let our thoughts determine how we think of the world. We have that freedom. Regardless if the world feels upside down, we can change, or we can decide how we're going to experience that world with our thoughts. It all begins in consciousness. He talks about Robert Frost, the poet, who said that every morning he gets up and does two things. He makes his bed, and then he makes up his mind. You got to make up your bed to get the wrinkles out of the sheets, and make up your mind to get the wrinkles out of your mind, and set your mind right. Get it straight. He says it's getting your faith lifted. Not your face lifted, your faith lifted. You need a spiritual, what do they call? You know what I'm thinking? Plastic surgeon. A spiritual plastic surgeon. Get your faith lifted. We often think about spirit so much less than we think about, we practice the presence of spirit so much less than we practice the absence of spirit. We practice spirit when we're here in the sanctuary, hopefully. Do we practice spirit in our lives when we leave this sanctuary? When we go out into the world that may be upside down, whether we feel it's upside down or we're sitting on top of it, are we practicing the presence of spirit? We have the freedom to do this, to align with spirit, to find our true self. And that is the ultimate freedom, is finding our true self, finding who we are. We're going to talk about this four-letter word that begins with F, which is free. In the Revealing Word, which is one of Unity's metaphysical Bible dictionaries, it says, freedom is the quality or state of being without thought of restraint, bondage, limitation, or repression. Having a sense of complete well-being. It is a result of regulating one's life according to principle, not according to what anyone else may think or say. See, it begins in consciousness. Freedom begins in our own minds, in knowing who you are, and knowing your divine inheritance is that of spirit. Freedom is finding your true self. I feel so grateful to live in a country where we have this freedom. where we're able to evolve and experience freedoms that other people in other countries don't get to experience. It's a freedom to be rather than a freedom from something. They're two different things. And the Declaration of Independence that was signed almost 250 years ago, I'm going to do the math, 246 maybe, is a freedom from Great Britain, a freedom from tyranny, a freedom from oppression. But it was also a freedom to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was a freedom to be able to pursue that. It was a freedom to be able to pursue equality, that all men are created equal. And while this idea of freedom and equality was a beautiful, noble idea, the founding fathers did not include women or people of color or indigenous people. But it's still a noble, beautiful idea that has been evolving in our country. We have to continue to defend that right and evolve those ideas. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have people who have defended our country. So I want to honor those and ask those who have worked in our military to stand up so that we can honor you. Because without you, we wouldn't have this right, this freedom. Is there anyone that was in the service that we can honor you? Thank you. Thank you for putting your lives on the line to make sure that we continue to be free here in America, that we continue to grow and have the opportunities that we have to grow and evolve and change. There's been lots of change in the last 250 years, some good, maybe some not so good, but outer conditions are always changing. Always changing. It says in the Bible almost 1,000 times, it came to pass. Talking about some event. It came to pass. It doesn't say it came to stay. The events of the world are constantly changing. Constantly changing. They come to pass. At the Unity Virtual Convention this year, the Unity Convention, I did it virtually. We had a whole day on diversity, equity, and inclusivity. This is something that Unity is really stressing right now, and the focus is on this and being more aware of how we need to be more diverse, have more equality and inclusivity. And one of the presenters said, the real work doesn't begin when we're in our sanctuaries. The real work begins when we leave, with the conversations that we have, with the way we show up. Are we allowing everyone to be free? Are we treating everyone equally? We need to ensure and have that awareness that we're all free, that we're all equally free. Martha Smock says this about freedom. The freedom to be all that God created you to be is yours, not someday, but now. Do not put off your freedom by thinking that you can be free only if some conditions change, or if some person changes, or by thinking that you cannot be free till the children are grown or the bills are paid. Freedom is finding your true self, not running from your false self or the foes that we perceive in our minds, focusing on what fills you, what moves you forward and fortifies you with a fierceness of purpose, like all that F words, fires you up. There's a lot more F words, but I'm not going to go to that one. Is this a little freaky? I did a seminar on how to give a better presentation, and they said alliteration is really important. Maybe too many Fs. But A few weeks ago, I did a talk on letting spirit out of the box. That spirit needs to be a bigger part of our lives, not just tethered to this box and let out whenever we want it to be let out, not just tethered to the box, to our way of how spirit should show up or how spirit is. And today I want to talk about how we put people in boxes. We put people in boxes. We limit their freedom. We put ourselves in boxes and limit our own freedom by insisting that we are just a certain way, or insisting other people are a certain way, and putting labels on them. It's not that we don't have fortes. We all have our own specialties. We all have our own gifts. We all have those things that we came here to share, to use, to make the world a better place. Those fortes in our lives. But we don't want to stay just there. We want to expand them. And so I found this video, which I think is really good at showing about these boxes. So you want to play that video, Lisa?
It's so easy to place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating sides. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Is never on time.
And then there's us. We who have tattoos. We who feel lonely. Have been bullied. We who have bullied others. We who are madly in love. Overcome great adversity. And there's the lucky ones whose team won the championship this year. then there's all of us who are created in the image of God. And as one body, we stand together, united as one under His grace.
I love that. I love seeing the empty boxes at the end, that we've no longer put people in boxes and we just realize our oneness, that we're united. There's freedom in that. There's freedom when we know that, when we can express from that we are united as one, that we stand together under His or her grace. We find our forte and find how we are similar to other people, but we also find our oneness. Richard Rohr says, when you are able to move beyond your false self, and your false self is all those identities that we get attached to, at the right time and in the right way, it will feel precisely like you have lost nothing. In fact, it'll feel like freedom and liberation. When you are connected to the whole, you no longer need to protect or defend the mere part. Those parts are those identities. We're so attached to our identities of who we think we are. And we're so much more than that. And there's freedom when we know that. When we stop looking at all those identities as attachments and look at them maybe as preferences. We talk about this in Prosperity Plus when we're writing a vision statement, that we write a vision statement and we write, these are the things that we would love in our life. This is how we would love our life to show up, how we would love to show up. And we always put at the end, this or something better, so that we're not attaching ourselves to it turning out just like that. It's a preference. So last summer, when I was facilitating Prosperity Plus, the beginning of the summer, and we wrote a vision statement, on my vision statement, I put that my daughter, Trish, and her husband, Mish, are moving to Colorado, and we are so excited. That was not in the cards. And I didn't hold it tightly. I held it loosely. It was a preference. It was something I would love. What I would really love, they lived in Nashville at the time, what I really wanted was that they lived within a drive instead of a flight. They had the freedom to choose what they wanted to do. I knew they were going to move somewhere, but I didn't know where. Last week, they moved to Colorado. They're right here. But they were free to make their own choice. I think they made the right choice. But Kevin and I, my husband Kevin and I, are so grateful that they're here, that they chose Colorado for now. We'll see how it unfolds. But they're finding their own true selves in this choice, as we all do. Grateful to have a country where we can move around like that. This week, I had to do a new video for our website, for our About Us page. And I was thinking about, how did I get here? How did I get here? You know, this is not the box that I had myself in years ago. It's not even close. And how do we get anywhere but by allowing ourselves those boundaries to expand, or to disappear, or to be erased, giving ourselves the freedom to be more than we saw ourselves as. Following that guidance, one step at a time. It's how I got here, how it unfolded. I'm grateful it did, and it's kind of freaky when I think about it. You know, who I was 20 years ago is not who I am now. And we need to allow other people that as well. The freedom that they're not who they were in high school. Thank goodness. We all get to grow. Stop boxing ourselves into being a certain way. Stop boxing other people into being a certain way. You think you know them? Maybe there's something you don't know. Maybe there's a story about them that they could tell you that you just couldn't help but fall in love with them. We don't know unless we start expanding those boxes. Start erasing those lines. Give yourself that freedom, that there's so much more love, there's so much more joy, there's so much more peace when we're not hanging on to hate. And we're not hanging on to them and us and others and us. And there's so much more to life than that. And didn't we come to have life and have it abundantly, as Jesus says? Have it abundantly. And we have the freedom to do that. It all starts in our own consciousness. It's always our choice. Are you open to finding your true self? Are you open to not boxing yourself in, not boxing others into a certain way of being? Are you open to that? This week, maybe find one thing that you didn't know about someone. Look where you might be boxing them into a certain way. Putting up that line, and let that line soften. Remember to put spirit in the center of the world, so that when the world feels upside down, you feel right side up. Because that's the only thing that can ground us, is staying in alignment with that divine essence of who each of you are, each of you have within you. Eric Butterworth says, don't let an outer happening squeeze you into its box, but open your mind to the flow of wisdom, love, and good judgment by which you can deal masterfully with it. Don't let it squeeze you into its box. Whatever's going on in the world, then you're free. Then you're free. Happy 4th of July. And namaste.